Hey gang, sorry about that. I had a little internet problem. But today I'm going to be talking about 3 ways to close your real estate wholesaling deals. This is what I do when I close my deal. So again, today's lesson is about 3 ways to structure or 3 techniques that you can use to close your wholesaling deals when you're out there working hard and putting a deal under contract. So let's go ahead and dive in. Before I explain the 3 techniques, I want to explain that in this learning session, I'm going to talk about what are the 3 techniques, the definition of them, the pros, the cons, and how do I determine which technique I'm going to use when I have a deal on my plate. So let's pull the curtain back and get started, gang. Okay, the first way is called what I call an assignment. Now, an assignment, what is an assignment? An assignment is basically when you find a motivated seller, you put the deal under contract, okay? And all you do is you sign another piece of paperwork with your end buyer that says they're willing to buy your deal or buy your positioning, okay? So basically an assignment is, again, this is you talk to a seller. Okay, so this is you talk to a seller, you get a deal on the contract, let's say for Y percentage or Y dollars. Then you're gonna have this contract, your purchase contract, and now you're gonna find an end buyer. When you find an end buyer, that end buyer is just gonna buy this contract from you, and that's called an assignment. Now, the pros of an assignment is that it's really cheap, it's really fast, you have total control, okay, of the deal. Now watch my other video where I talk about how to get the assignment fee from wholesaling, because I always ask that my end buyer pays me a non-refundable security deposit, and I always ask for proof of funds. But coming back to the story, talking about the assignment, the pros are that, again, it's very fast, you have total control, and it's very cost efficient, okay? Now, the cons are that your end buyer, the person you sell it to, you're disclosing, you're just showing them your hands. Like if you're playing poker, you're showing them your hands and say, look, dude, I got this deal for 100 and I'm selling to you for $103,000. So I'm making $3,000. So simply put, your end buyer gets to know what you're assigning fee is, how much you're making as an assignment or as profit. Now, why can that be a problem? What I've seen with my students is if the assignment fee is usually like $5,000 or less, most people don't have a problem with it. But let's say you do a deal and you got a home run and you're making 40 grand. Well, I think your end buyer's gonna have a problem with it, but he may not or she may not, but usually they will. So it's $5,000, maybe $10,000 or less. Now, if you have a relationship with that end buyer and you've done multiple deals and they're cool, then that's a different story. But if it's your first time dealing with this cat and you're gonna make 40 grand off of him, even though that you bought the deal from him at 60 cents on a dollar, or even though that you give him a good subject to term and he's very happy with it, once he sees that you're gonna make 40K, he may or she may change their mind. So the cons of an assignment is that there's not much privacy on the profit you make because that end buyer gets to see that. But again, the pros are it's fast, you're in total control, and it's very cost efficient. Now another pro is that I like, and that's what I consider, is that the deed doesn't come into your name, which basically decreases your liability. Okay, the other strategy I'm gonna explain, number 2 and number 3, is not like this. So again, another pro of an assignment is that the deed doesn't come into your name, so you have less liability down the line if there's like some kind of problem with the title between that seller and that end buyer, because you never, the property was never titled under your name. You never received the deed, okay? So it decreases some of your liability, okay? But it has its cons. The end buyer gets to know how much you're making. There's no privacy. And then The other problem with the con of an assignment fee is that it leaves you in a positioning of being vulnerable. What I mean by that is that if you're dealing with shady investors, they have the opportunity to go behind your back and get the money. Now, I do have strategies that I implement. For example, filing at the county clerk's office, the memorandum. If you don't have it, go ahead and download it. I do sell it for a couple of bucks. And there's other strategy that I implement. We could do another video about that to kind of protect yourself from being in a softer situation or softer positioning, better to put it, okay? So the cons of the assignment is weaker positioning, and there's really no privacy of how much you make, that you may piss off that end buyer, okay? Excuse me, guys. All right, so the second way to wholesale your deal. So the first way to wholesale your deal is to do an assignment, okay? And the second way to wholesale a deal is to do what's called a double closing, okay? And basically in a double closing, what happens is that this is you market to a motivated seller, you guys go to closing, the deed comes into your name, and then tomorrow or the next day or next month or spontaneously, you know, a couple of minutes later, you're selling it to your end buyer, guys, okay? So again, to define it, there's two closing. To simplify, there's two closing. The closing between you and the motivated seller. Once you become the rightful owner of the property, the deed is conveyed in your name. Then at that time, you're able to deliver it to your end buyer, whoever that may be, okay? Now, the pros of a double closing is that, again, we eliminate the assignment part where because the deed goes into your name, which means that now, A, you have more privacy. Bob, your end buyer, doesn't get to see how much money you made. If you made 20 grand, if you made 15 grand, he has no fucking idea. All he gets to see is the price he's buying it for, unlike the assignment. The assignment, they get to see the price they're buying it for and how much you're fucking asking to make. Does that make sense? Eventually they'll get to see that, and they may not want to do the deal if they're one of those idiots, okay? They get mad because you make money, you know? I don't understand that, but I don't try to deal with people like that. So if you're doing assignments and somebody gets pissed off, then I would eliminate that dude from my list because he's just a hater. I don't want to deal with haters. There's other people out there. But if you're in a small market and there's not that many cash buyers, then you can't eliminate this guy. So then you do the double closing to eliminate him from hating on you, okay? So on the double closing, the pros are privacy. That buyer doesn't get to see, you know, how much money you make. And the other pro is your positioning is way better, I mean, without a doubt, than assignment. Because in an assignment, that motivated seller still has the deed. You haven't bought it. All you're doing is selling your positioning to a different buyer. You're saying, hey, end buyer, I've already negotiated this deal with this motivated seller X, and I'm allowing you to buy my positioning on my contract, and you go to closing. Where on a double closing, the deed's already conveyed into your name, you're the rightful owner of it, or your LLC or whatever is the rightful owner of it, and then you sell it to this end buyer. So your positioning is just way off the game compared to the other one, okay? So that's the benefit. That's two benefits that just comes off my head freestyling, guys. Now, the cons, okay, very simple. More expense, guys. I mean, go to closing one time, you know, let's say it's $3,000 and do another closing, that's another $3,000, so that's $6,000 you're just eating. You know, if you're doing it with your own lawyer and he charges you $1,500, then another $1,500, that's $3,000. So it'll eat into your profit, okay? Unless you negotiate with the buyer or the seller pays for it and things of that nature, that might be different. But usually, you know, you have these closing costs, all right? The other disadvantages is that more liability, because now the property comes into your name, and now, you know, when you convey the deed to somebody else, you have to guarantee that you know, there's no clouds, there's no disputes, or you know, anything that can arouse later on in life. But now you have to say the house is in good condition. This where, you know, in an assignment, you know, that seller doing the house disclosure, like it has this problem. It's not me, okay? So when I have the deed in my name or my company's name, now if something happens, the lady's walking up the stairs and she falls off and the stairs was fucked up, and I bought it and I just sold it 10 seconds later. Now I have more responsibility, okay, or an hour later, 3 months later, or whatever, okay? So in my mind, I'm not an attorney, so talk to your attorney, but in my mind, I don't do double closings unless I'm gonna make a big chunk of money, okay? Because it's just more expenditure, all right? We're talking about wholesaling. We're not talking about fix and flips, okay? We're just talking about wholesaling right now, all right? So option 2 was to sell it with a double closing. The pros are, as we talked about, and the cons we have already talked about, okay? Now, option 3 to sell your deal as a wholesaler is to what's called an assignment of your LLC, okay? And basically, to define this is, and I really don't want to get into this too much, but basically, this is a good strategy if you deal with like REOs, HUDs, okay? But I don't even deal with that, okay? What I deal with is just motivated seller. I'm like what Bruce Lee says. I practice one kick 10,000 times instead of 10,000 kicks, okay? So the business that I deal with, okay, I just deal with motivated seller. That's my only bread and butter, dude. I just care for motivated seller. I don't care if the market is up. I don't care if the market is down. I don't care if the market is going sideways. My niche is to do shitload of marketing, find motivated sellers, and that's it. I don't want to deal with bankers, don't like bankers, don't want to borrow money from them, don't like to talk to them unless they're paying me, okay? That part I'm dealing, but just the other part is just not me. Anybody can hire a realtor, anybody can send out material, anybody can put offers in, but it really takes a significant motherfucker to use your imagination, to use creativity, to learn sales, to learn negotiation, and what I call a significant, you're a significant investor, man. You're able to make moves where the other people can't, and you're in the trenches and you're getting fucking dirty, but with all those fucking pull-ups, you're building muscle, man, which is gonna help you with life, okay? So this is what I do. I don't use the fucking assignment of LLCs, but again, those are good for like HUDs, REOs, where what happens is that, you have this LLC, you make an offer to Bank of America, they accept your offer, and then you find an end buyer and you assign the LLC to that end buyer, okay? Because banks and, REOs and things like that, they're not gonna allow an assignment. They have a bunch of clauses in all their contracts and all the paperwork they send to you, so they're not going to allow you to assign it like we do in step number 1, okay? And then they'll have seasoning, situations where we're doing a double closing may not work, okay? And what I mean by seasoning is that, for example, if you buy a certain property, if you get the deed, you have to hold on to a certain amount before you could have to sell it, before some other lender could lend to it, all that bullshit, red tape politics, okay? So now I explained to you guys 3 different ways to do wholesaling. When you go out there and you find a motivated seller, you put it on the contract. Now you have 3 ways to monetize on that. The first way is to assignment. The number 2 is double closing, and number 3, which is assignment of LLCs if you're working with like REOs and HUDs and things of that nature. But if you deal with motivated sellers, you're just going to need the first 2, guys. And I would recommend that majority of times you do this. Find good investors. They're like, hey, for example, what is a good investor? For example, if the items, like you bring me a deal and the numbers work for me, okay, I don't give a fuck if you make $1. I don't give a fuck if you make $1 million. I don't give a fuck. As long as the deal you bring me, I'm gonna be happy buying it. Once you show me your card, I don't give a fuck. And I like to deal with people like that, okay? Because, I have friends, I have family, for example, I'll bring him a deal, it's worth $100K, and I say, okay, family, you could buy this for 60. And they're like, oh yeah, this is such a great deal, man. Hell yeah, dude. Damn, they run the comps, they're so fucking happy. And then when they see that I'm gonna make 10 grand, they're like, like, no, man. See, it's like, dude, you were happy just 10 minutes ago, dude. What the fuck? Why do you care how much I make? What if I got this shit for fucking free? Why the fuck do you care? Because you're getting your shit already at a good fucking price. So I don't deal with those kind of individuals. See, but if you're new and you're just starting out, you have no choice. But I like to deal with the 20%ers that give you 80% of your business. I don't like to deal with fucking everybody. It's just not worth it for me in any of my businesses. For example, my moving company, that we do. In my own personal business, like coaching, I don't even want to deal with everybody, dude. It's just not worth it. I want to help people out for free, but I only want to make money with 20% of the people. Those 20% are giving me 80% of my money. I have to deal with less fucking people, just less bullshit, less politics. So that's how I do business. And eventually, if you work hard, you probably do business like that if you choose to. There's other people that are willing to deal with everybody and deal with all the retail headaches. Great for you, dude. But I don't want that for me. And that's the great thing with America. You have the choice to decide whatever you want. You get to see different people do different strategies, and you get to fucking pick. So, coming back to the story, there's 3 ways to do a closing if you're out there hustling, bustling. Assignments, double closing, and assignment of LLCs, guys. All right? I'm going to do another video really quick about 2 types of customers that you can wholesale to. But they'll be on the next video, guys. If any of you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer it real quick. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And thanks for listening. If you have any questions, just leave it below and I'll be happy to answer it. See you later, gang.